At this time, I invite the Vice President of Temple Public Safety, Jennifer Griffin, to please come forward.
It is with the heaviest of hearts that I stand before you. Today we mourn the loss of Police Officer Christopher David Fitzgerald. To Marissa, the children, Chief, and Mrs. Fitzgerald, siblings, family, and friends, Officer Fitzgerald was more than just a police officer at Temple. He was a proactive crime fighter, a communicator, a department ambassador at community events, a friend, running partner, and colleague to many. He exemplified the qualities that we want in our officers. He was positive, a great teammate, able to gauge the situation accordingly, and fun. Today, a city and a country are collectively sharing in our grief, but more importantly, we are gathered to celebrate his life. So I think it is only fitting to share a few stories from some of his close friends and colleagues. What they shared after some careful consideration to ensure that they were shareable in this format were fond memories of good times together. One of Fitz's fellow officers said they frequently were working the 2-officer wagon, patrolling the west side of campus. And every time the song Doja Cat, Need to Know, which he assured me was a top song at the time, played on the radio, Fitz would turn the radio all the way up to the point where the speakers sounded like they were going to be blown out. Now mind you, this is the Temple University Police Department wagon that these two were rolling in. And the officer said that Fitz would sing Doja Cat at the top of his lungs and then look at him afterwards and ask, "Jeff, what do you think about Doja Cat?" And repeat the question over and over again until he gave him some sort of answer. Once the song was over, he would start this again, looking on another radio station until he found it playing. He would repeat this every night they were together until he finally tired of that song. From the stories I heard, Fitz was very generous in his time and his deep friendships. One officer shared that one of his best stories was off-duty, which caused me to pause for a second because I had no idea where the story was going to go. But then he shared that Fitz was attending his wedding and forgot the wedding card at his house. So he'd emptied his pockets with all the money he had, palms up with both hands, and forced him to take it. Fitz was funny and witty and quick with a smile, a quality that I've seen in both of his mother and father this week. One of his supervisors shared that whenever he needed an officer to do an assignment, Chris would say, "I got you, Corp." And the supervisor would never have to think twice about the assignment being done right. Chris was a hard worker and a great teammate. The supervisor's fondest memory of Chris was them talking in the supervisor's office about him applying for a supervisor's position in the future. Chris was aspiring to be a leader early in his career with Temple, and he led by example in his proactive efforts and community engagement initiatives. For those of you who don't know, Fitz was also a bicycle officer, and his supervisor shared that one night while on bike, he got into a bike and then a foot pursuit on Broad and CB Moore. Chris had dropped his bike to pursue on foot, which is a high pedestrian traffic location. What he didn't see was a sergeant move his bike. When Chris returned from pursuit, his bike was not where he dropped it, and he started to panic trying to find the bike. He was about to yell at one of our colleagues for letting somebody walk off with his bike when he was informed that the sergeant had moved it. Even though he was panicked and frustrated, he got a good laugh at it afterwards. Chris was so easy to laugh, which was a common thread to all of their stories. One supervisor described Fitz as respectful, brave, a real go-getter, polite, hardworking, and very efficient. A husband who worked hard to provide for Marissa and his children, determined and a true leader, always helping others in Temple and Philadelphia community. These are just a few of the countless stories that were shared over the last few days, and it was clear that Fitz left an indelible mark on our hearts and spirit which makes this loss all the more painful and tragic. So I'd be remiss if I didn't touch on a topic that within law enforcement we need to continue to confront and discuss, which is mental health. In the United States, more police officers die through suicide than any other means. Officers will see and experience trauma reported at rates up to 3 times the average person over their career. These experiences and traumas, although a sad reality of our profession, leave a mark on our minds and our hearts. They change us in ways that only those closest to us know, but cannot understand, unless you're a police officer. There are countless people in this cathedral who are deeply hurt because of their close relationship with Officer Fitzgerald. And yet there are others who never met him, but are deeply touched by his story and this loss. And out of that pain has grown a desire to honor Officer Fitzgerald as we are searching for ways to live through his legacy. One way that we can honor his legacy and live like Fitz is to take care of your own mental health and support your fellow colleagues. Ask how your peers are doing. Let them know how you're feeling, and don't be afraid to share how these and other traumatic events affect us, because there are so many options and resources available. We cannot fully give to our family, friends, and community if we are suffering. Last night at the viewing, the Temple University Police Department was able to present Fitz's wife and entire family his well-deserved Officer of the Year plaque, which was proudly on display, as well as 3 merit awards that he earned in 2022. Chief Fitzgerald shared that Chris had told him and Pauline that he was certain he was winning the award this year, which made us all laugh and smile. Even during Fitz's death, he is bringing us laughter, love, and joy. In closing, I want to share a conversation I had with Chris's father over the last few days. He shared that Chris loved and was so proud to be a police officer, and he was especially loved being a Temple University police officer. That Chris was grateful for the opportunities and was planning on being a supervisor someday. So as a tribute to Officer Fitzgerald for his dedicated service to Temple University, we have officially, posthumously promoted him to the rank of sergeant. And I'm confident that Sergeant Fitzgerald will continue to inspire his colleagues and those who didn't personally know him, but will hear the stories. I think it is fitting that Sergeant Christopher David Fitzgerald took one last patrol through the streets of Temple University this morning. Chris is physically gone, but his spirit, love, and laughter will live on through all of us as we continue his legacy.